Hello! Now I've been looking through my collection of games and it got me thinking, what were the actual first JRPGs I played of a certain series? So what I mean by this is, what was the first Final Fantasy game? What was my first Star Ocean game? What was my first Tales of game? Etc. Getting tongue-tied now. So I thought, hey, let's talk about this in an actual video. So let's have a look at the first games I played in a JRPG series. Now, to utterly no one's surprise to this channel, is that the first JRPG I did play, and yes, it is Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation 1. I've mentioned it heaps and heaps and heaps of times now that Final Fantasy VII is my all-time favourite game. In general, JRPG game across the board. In this, we follow Cloud and Avalanche and the rest of the party travel across the world to try and defeat the big bad known as Sephiroth. If I haven't sold you on this game by now, I mean, come on. But I absolutely love the game Final Fantasy VII. Everything from the story, the combat, the characters, you know, and the music, of course.
Like I give a shit.
Now I have become a big fan of the Legend of Heroes Trails of series, but the journey had to start somewhere, and my journey started off with Trails of Cold Steel on the PS Vita. I went to play this game after watching recommendations on YouTube for games that you should have for your PS Vita, blah blah blah, and I tell you what, I absolutely adore these games now because of this. The combat system was one thing that completely drew me in, and also what I learned is that with all Falcom games you are going to be filled with lore, you're going to have amazing characters, and once again they provide an awesome soundtrack to go with all this. Now actually sticking with Falcom, the first Falcom game I actually played was a Yeast game, and that Yeast game is Memories of Celceta. So this was my first forte into the Yeast series, and again, fantastic gameplay in this, action-based combat, and with this being my first taste of a Yeast game, I mean, it just dragged me into more, and my next purchase after that was, looking at my shelf, Yeast Memories, was Yeast Lacrimosa of Dana, and if you know that game, I mean, it goes without saying how awesome it is. Now another fantastic JRPG series is the Tales of series. There is heaps of titles for this, but my first game in the Tales of series was Tales of Hearts R, which is exclusive to the the PS Vita at the time of recording. It is a remake of a Nintendo DS game which was exclusive to Japan, and yeah, this got me into the Tales series. Fantastic game, fantastic series in general. Right, so this one I had to go back and forth and think about it because I was dithering between the two which one I actually played first. Now, the first Star Ocean game that I bought was The Last Hope, but I didn't actually play it until a good while later. It was when Entertainment Exchange were selling like Xbox 360 games for like hee-haw, and I got it for like £1 or something. But the first actual Star Ocean game that I played, and I'm sorry for this, was Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness. I mean, it is seen as one of the worst Star Ocean games. I thought it was alright, but then again, I'm very easily amused when it comes to my games, so yeah, let's carry on. Now, a game series I do actually quite like is the Valkyrie series, so your Valkyrie Profile and Valkyrie Elysium. But my first taste of this was actually Valkyrie Profile Lenneth, and I got this for an absolute steal. I managed to secure this for like £2 at a charity shop, and it was in immaculate condition. and it's not often that you find a JRPG at a charity shop. Honestly, what a steal. But anyway, going back to the actual game itself, it is a fantastic side scroller. I really enjoyed the story with it, and it really wanted me to play more. I've got the PlayStation 2 Valkyrie Profile 2 game, and recently you may have seen in a pickups video that I finally got Valkyrie Elysium, which at the time of recording I am still playing through on the PS5 and enjoying my time with it. Now, this next game is one of my all-time favourite JRPGs. I have spoken about it a good amount of time on this channel, but why not talk about it one more time? So the first game in this series I played was Valkyrie? So the first game in this series that I played was Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and this is still my favourite out of the 3 Valkyrie. I've said it again, Valkyrie. It is my favourite out of these Xenoblade Chronicles games still. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was awesome, Xenoblade Chronicles 1 was great, the Torna DLC was fantastic, but this hits home every time I play it. I think because it was my first Xenoblade Chronicles game, you always have a bit more bias towards the first game that you've played in a series. So this next game is actually one of my all-time favourite JRPGs. Without further ado, it's Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I absolutely adore this game. The stories in this are fantastic, going down the different routes. This was my first taste into the Fire Emblem sort of battle mechanics, and I just loved going back to these characters, going back to the monastery, and just going at it all the time. And it made me go for the likes of Fire Emblem Awakening, Fire Emblem Fates. I also have, looking at the shelf, Fire Emblem Echoes, that's the one. But anyway, those were some examples of the first games that I played in a JRPG series. But what I want to know now is, what was the first game in a JRPG series that you played? So you know what to do, the comments and all that. But if you are liking what you are seeing on the channel, please help me grow it by liking, sharing and subscribing. But until next time, tatty bye!